have now a round table. Thank you to Giovanni Di Bello, Dr. Giovanni Di Bello, Director of the Civil Protection. Okay, yeah, of Civil Protection of Regione Basilicata. Thank you to Maria Gabriella Martino, head of the regional body of Carabinieri Forestali. I don't know how to translate in English. Because to those that are attending by remote, had the merge of the body of Forestali, that was a separate police corp until 5-6 years ago. How long? 7 years ago. And now it is a part of the Carabinieri, that is an army of the Italian Army Corps. And thank you to Vincenzo Salvatore Ciani, Director of the Firefighters body of Regione Basilicata. And last but not least, to Andreas Vassilopoulos, that is the partner with AVMap. AVMap, sorry. Okay. So I will not take more time to the discussion that I already expect will be vivid and interesting. So I will share with you the aim of this short discussion between partners. We will have half an hour or right an hour, roughly an hour, to okay. I was speaking in English for the guests. But do you all have the interpretation in Italian is working? Okay, so I will propose just 2 points of discussion to the participants that then can change, can propose other ideas. My proposal is to focus on 2 points. The first is, I know that in many countries, also not only in Italy, we have had quite substantial changes in the institutional organization, in the procedural structure of the fight of the about policies for fire fighting or fire controls, fire prevention. These institutional changes, we know something in Italy, are always very difficult. So, and discussing with the friend from Greece, I understood that in Greece it's quite the same. So what is the situation? Are there changes, institutional, procedural changes that really brought some advantage to these policies that were a beautiful advancement? I will make an example from another sector, totally another sector. In the 70s in Italy, there was a change of the health services system. We moved from a mutual approach to the national universal health service. This was a radical change that brought also a lot of difficulties, but it brought a lot of benefits. Now, I am not a specialist, not of the health system nor of the fire, etc. But I heard that many relevant changes happened in recently, and one I already mentioned, one that is the change the Forestali that had a different dress until 7 years ago. The merge of Forestali body in the Carabinieri. So I would like to hear from you what are, in your opinion, the main changes, and opinions of what they brought, if they were an advancement or if they were a move backward. The second question is about technologies. We are overwhelmed by technologies. We will not make the coffee by ourselves. It will arrive with a drone, etc. And in the sector of firefighting, we have enormous advances in terms of technologies. But when the director of the firefighters wakes up in the morning and goes to work, is there something that really changed his life or her life? The other, is there something that you can say, okay, this changed my life as a firefighter? Because obviously the research, the scientists that we had, Professor Nollet, that told us of enormous innovation. Yeah, they are there, they are progressing. But what is important for us is also what we will do tomorrow morning. So I can finish here, and I would like to give the floor first to Gabriella Martino. And I would like to propose that we start from the first question. In institutional procedures innovations. We will, in order to have a round of, for everybody, roughly 5 minutes maximum. If it is 4, it's better.
Grazie, dottor Peretti. Io parlerò in italiano.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I will speak Italian. Thank you very much. Absolutely.
Of remote translation, and I will take the occasion to thank Giacomo and Margherita that are interpreting us from remote. So you can speak in your language, and it will be perfect.
Thank you very much. I was so well introduced that I can say that I have the honor to represent the Carabinieri Forestali, which have a specific competence in the prevention of the crime of wildfire. My experience has been accumulated on the ground, on the territory, but also in the field of implementation of technology. The environmental simulator is the device we implemented. We are the only ones to experience it. This enables the training of military corps specializing in the management of wildfires. This device enables us to immerse in a live environment where the different operators can implement a series of equipments to be utilized in real operations. The role of the Carabinieri Corps starts from prevention, first of all. So we deliver targeted services, bearing in mind that wildfires are being caused mainly by the human action, if not totally. And the territory to be impacted is quite vast, quite wide to be effectively monitored. We can say that next to the targeted services, it is necessary to raise awareness among the population. The breeders, the farmers on the correct behaviors and behavioral norms. The burning of grass on the territory, the burning of residues is very common. Raising awareness among the mayors is important as well when it comes to specific legislation concerning specific areas and particular risk areas. This in periods ranging from 15th June to the 15th of September. Of course, it's necessary to monitor, to clean and to maintain the forests and to clean this area along the railway. We have prevention, but we also have patrolling activities, including prevention, surveillance activities on the territory, but also inquiring activities to repress the phenomenon of crime. So it's clear that the repression activity needs also a study, an analysis of the historical data concerning the impacted areas, so that we can facilitate the delivering of targeted services in the territory and in those areas where the phenomenon risks to be extended. In the Basilicata region, for example, we give a special attention to the Maratea area and to the Pollino or Somarso. So we put in place a series of hotspots thanks to the cooperation with the Carabinieri Corps, but also to the cooperation with the Basilicata region to be able to concentrate, prevent, and pursue, prosecute in a targeted way the eventual responsible of the crime. Throughout the years, Italy was concerned by an evolution in the field of the law panorama. The 353 law was the basis, and then the law has been reviewed many times, and this was paramount to fight against wildfires and to prevent crimes. So different causes can be identified and also the risk areas. When it comes to the active fight, the competence and the skill of the regional entities is important to coordinate the activities on the territory and to involve the different resources and stakeholders. The Carabinieri Corps is in convention with the regional government of Basilicata. But the law on which we are concentrating is the Article 10.1. The municipalities have to provide on the different areas interested by the fire, in the different areas, they have to adopt and to update the cadastre, the wildfire map, in which you can find the different areas impacted by wildfires, and they have to include some new laws or some new commas in the existing laws. Considering the emergencies of the last years, we can say that other provisions have been added to the existing laws. And actually, we managed to vote the law decree 2021, which is very important, 120/2021, which increased the penalties and which is going to increase the interventions in case of emergencies in the designated areas, and imposes to draw the national plan to reinforce the implementation of all resources to prevent wildfires by air, by earth, and by all possible means. What did the Carabinieri do in this context? Of course, there was an evolution thanks to the implementation of this decree, and a new element has been added. So we created the new geo portal on wildfire mapping. This means that with the implementation of this new law, the Carabinieri for Forestali can identify the areas impacted by the wildfire, and they can update on digital support the data. They publish the activities carried out on the territory on a certain website belonging to the Carabinieri Corps denominated SIV. So we said fire cadastre. The municipality has a certain time to introduce the data that are being given by the Carabinieri themselves. And on those surfaces, new provisions will be implemented. Then later on has been established that a replacing authority can act on behalf of the municipality in case the municipality cannot act. And another provision has been adopted or can be adopted if the municipalities do not update or cannot update the map. This so-called portal is a tool, a modern tool, and can be immediately accessed and used, is accessible to different entities, but also to citizens, to all those parties who want to know more about the extension of the phenomenon in the regions where the Carabinieri Forestali operates. So, of course, every region can adopt their own system regarding the geolocalization, and the regional government of Basilicata has an efficient system similar to that, and we can use the data that the Carabinieri Forestali gathered to this extent and introduces inside this portal. And after the actions have been taking place on the spot, and after the measures have been taken, and this system is updated, the entities of the regional government of Basilicata can use this portal. There is a dedicated area where you can see the mapping of the territory. You can get access to the information, to the cadastre maps, all the news that are important to define that phenomenon. Of course, the involvement of the different institutions and of the different entities of the population as well could obtain and could make us reach realize, put together a network involving the cooperation of several stakeholders that can make the territory less vulnerable. And this is important to reduce the expansion of those wildfires that are the result of a lack of culture, environmental culture. So we need to train people about the good practices, good behaviors to be adopted as a prevention of wildfire. Then some activities centered around the circular economy initiatives that teach people to reuse the old materials, and also the abandoned territory that are increasing, are on the rise in our region. So it's a complex phenomenon that can be mitigated in our insight just by training, preparing, and raising awareness among the communities. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And now we'll give the floor to Mr. Vincenzo Salvatore Ciani. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to greet all the participants, both here in the room and connected remotely. I'm Vincenzo Giovanni, Regional Director of the Firefighters Department of the Basilicata region. Now, in relation to the issues raised by the moderator, I'd like to highlight a couple of aspects. First of all, let me just say that I think that fire brigades in all countries take action to suppress wildfires. So we do not participate in prevention activities or in protection activities after the event. So our scope of work is actually quite limited. However, it's quite relevant when an emergency arises. Regarding regulations and the skills required, let me just highlight that in Italy, jurisdiction, rather not skills, but jurisdiction over wildfires is in the hands of both the states, the regions, and the local bodies. After Title 5 of the Constitution was changed in the past and its subsequent modifications, the last one in 2000, the regions were granted jurisdiction over wildfires and a fight against them. It's also true that it is our responsibility to suppress wildfires in general, or fires in general, rather. Italy is significantly anthropized, even in woodland areas, so it's necessary to find a way to work together between the state, the regions, and the municipalities when it comes to suppressing fires. This has caused problems in the past. However, now it's been 25 years since the framework law was passed governing this discipline, and now we've found a way to operate synergically and quite effectively so. So the principle of subsidiarity is applied here. There is an agreement with the region that is renewed annually in the peak season of wildfires, which is legally established to go from the 15th of June to the 15th of September. It is also true that climate change has now changed this fire season. They may start earlier and continue beyond September. This was the case this year. We had wildfires even after the 15th of September. In any case, let me just say that it would be beneficial if researchers gave us further information and measures to determine the resources we need to put in place to meet the needs existing. Let me just rephrase it. There's a high risk of wildfires, especially in the woodland-urban interfaces, which exposes people to a significant risk. And when I talk about interface, I'm also referring to farms and livestock breeding activities and stuff. So it would be ideal to consider the vulnerability of the local area and the weather forecasts. If we talk about earthquakes, for instance, seismic vulnerability is more stable and steady. Once it's been identified, we know that the old town of that specific municipality is more vulnerable. So when you've got a magnitude 5, 6, or 7 earthquake, you already know what the effects will be. On the other hand, if we sort of translate this same notion to the risk of wildfires occurring, when we map the vulnerable spots of the areas, well, those vulnerable spots are such based on a number of different parameters that should be taken into account. So their vulnerability is affected by the presence of wind, of humidity, and a number of different elements. So an area becomes vulnerable according to the weather conditions, and that's where the problem resides. We often play by the ear, so to speak, allow me this metaphor. So we take things as they come. So based on our previous experience, we have divided the regional area into 6 macro areas. And we know that these macro areas are affected by wildfire in certain periods of the year. We've done it to optimize the use of the resources we have. However, this kind of prediction based on these 6 macro areas should be checked against the daily weather conditions and forecasts so that we can better deploy the resources available. Recently, we have started using drones to localize wildfires. It goes without saying that reaction time is essential for the best outcome in managing the wildfire. In 2007, I was in Foggia when the Peschici wildfire broke out, and that wildfire was a crown fire. It developed in less than 15 to 20 minutes, and it quickly spread to 400 meters, and it was advancing at a speed of 1 kilometer per hour. This means 16 meters a minute. So when a wildfire reaches such magnitude, it becomes extremely dangerous. It is difficult to even get close to it. It can only be managed with aerial vehicles. It may be broken downstream, so to speak. So the case that fire was suppressed because it reached the coast and because the aerial vehicles managed to contain the fires. And the use of aerial vehicles is an example of interinstitutional synergy and subsidiarity in terms of the jurisdiction over wildfires. This means that the National Civil Protection Department manages the issue, and it receives the inputs from the local areas. It assesses the information received. The information is then codified to make sure that we don't step on each other's shoes. And then the aerial vehicles are deployed. They are typically found across the country. And there are professional figures who are tasked with interacting with the aerial forces. When an aerial vehicle intervenes to fight against a wildfire, it needs to receive information from the ground to take into account a number of obstacles, such as power lines, among others. And the pilot needs to be aware of these obstacles, such as the, including, as well as the crew on the vehicle. So it's important to have effective and reliable interactions with the ground personnel. And we've got specific means of communication that the ground personnel uses to communicate with the pilots of the planes. And this whole process is coordinated by specific figures, specific professionals who are in charge, as I said, of making sure that this communication is effective. This is the result of an evolution that has taken place over the last 30 years. 30 years ago, let's say the landscape was significantly different. And now we are improving in the way we manage the whole process. So we are improving, that's true, but at the same time, our enemy is becoming worse and worse. So the battle is becoming increasingly difficult. So let me just finish by saying that we can only support these initiatives aimed at providing an array of tools and elements to better perform our firefighting activities and optimize the use of our resources. Certainly, it is important to strengthen the prevention side of things. It's always better to prevent than to cure. But prevention is always a sort of soft spot, you know, something we can improve on. The abandonment of land, the abandonment of certain settlements, among other things, is not helpful in managing the territory. In addition to that, many municipal administrations are not effective in performing even the most trivial activities, such as mowing the lawns, for instance, or cutting the grass near the urban centers. And this may lead to cause significant damage if a wildfire breaks out. I'm not going to take up any more of your time, but I'm happy to take any questions if there are any. Thank you very much. Okay, then let me just give the floor now to Mr. Giovanni Di Bello. Good morning, I'm Giovanni Di Bello, head of the Civil Protection Office of the Basilicata region. Let me greet all the organizers and the participants, as well as the speakers here at the table with me. I would like to make a few remarks with you. I'd like to try and understand with you how we can fight against wildfires more effectively and more efficiently. So how we can actively and effectively fight against fires. And let me just start by saying the following. It's important to identify the causes of the fire. We used our planning to analyze the causes of wildfires, and our analysis has revealed that identifying the trigger of the fire is never an easy feat. However, wildfires can be natural, accidental, voluntary, or involuntary. Think about it, 35% of triggers is of dubious origin. 35% of wildfires, let me repeat that, can be due to negligence, or and 42% instead are intentional. Only 1% of wildfires can be ascribed to natural causes. So it's essential to identify the cause if we want to mitigate the effects of wildfire, and if we want to have an organizational model of the various scenarios that are relevant. Now, of course, we would be happier if the percentage of natural fires was higher. Clearly, when you've got 49% of wildfires that is intentional, well, that means that you have to find out who sparks these fires. And it's not easy to identify these people, these perpetrators. If that were easy, we wouldn't have had 4,000 wildfires in the last year, many of which occurred in the peak season or the risk season. The president of the regional council said that we should have an extended season until the 15th of October. That would be better than the 15th of September. We would also love to extend the peak season, but the main hazard season clearly entails a series of costs and burdens in terms of the organization, the vehicles, the means, the staff required to intervene. So we need to take into account the resources that regions can rely on, including financial resources, because it is up to the regions to manage this issue. So what kind of measures do we take? What's our modus operandi? We said that the main steps to fighting against fires are prevention in the first place and suppression. So prevention and suppression are the two main steps of the fight against wildfires. Technology gives us a helping hand when it comes to identifying the causes. Well, now we know what the main causes are. Our 3-year firefighting plan also includes the causes and the hazard and risk maps, municipality by municipality, and the municipalities are divided into 6 classes of risk. So we have already sort of framed our territory and clearly codified it, and we know what the level of risk is in our local areas. Risk posed by the vegetation or other factors that have to do with the specificities of our area, including the temperature. For instance, this year we have experienced a 1.5 rise in our typical temperature in our region. We've also suffered from droughts. We didn't have rainfall. This is another predisposing factor that facilitates the breaking out of fires. It sort of increases, let's say, the effect of the actions of perpetrators who intentionally set fire to woodlands. So who steps in these cases? We've got the fire brigade, we've got the forest corps of the Carabinieri. As Ms. Martino has said, the Carabinieri forest corps are also involved in prevention, which is good. But having some units of the forest corps deployed is definitely a positive measure, but it's not all there is to it. It's not it's not the ultimate solution. We need all the stakeholders to cooperate. We need the civil protection officials. We need the Carabinieri. We need all the other players working at a local and regional levels. And we also need the support of citizens. Citizens should be made aware of the risks and be educated. So we need educational and awareness-raising activities, which is what we've been doing for a few years now amongst citizens. So the figure we have to focus on is these 4,000 wildfires we've had in the last year, especially in the peak season. And then we have to focus on the causes. So these are our starting points for our discussion. And what are the next steps then? Well, we have to figure out how to make the most of all the main steps, including prevention and suppression or active fighting against the wildfire. as the original director of the fire brigade said, there is an established model that has been so for a few years now. It includes a number of operational units coordinated by the Basilicata region, which is tasked with coordination by law. So we've got the Civil Protection Office, the Forest Office involved in this coordination efforts, and the suppression activities are coordinated by the operational room of the civil protection, which becomes a unified, permanent operational room, especially in the peak season. So this operational room manages all the operational activities when a wildfire breaks out. So the operational machine works perfectly. But the point is, are we dealing with 4,000 wildfires, 2,000 wildfires, 1,000 wildfires? Clearly, if we are able to mitigate and reduce the number of wildfires, and if we can identify the causes and strengthen all prediction and prevention activities, then we've done most of the work already. But as we said, it's never easy to identify the causes of a wildfire. Clearly, this discussion would take much longer. We don't have all that time now, so I'm trying to sum it up a bit. So we've got causes related to negligence or inexperience or malpractice. Well, this is 15% of all the wildfires, and this can be addressed with awareness raising activities in schools, for instance. So we're working with the ministry to do that. We also offer training to all the mayors, because they are in charge of passing laws. They are in charge with monitoring their own municipal territory. They are tasked with maintaining, clearly, the area they manage. So they are also in charge of cutting the grass or mowing the lawns, or, you know, keeping the fields clean and orderly to prevent flames from spreading into other environments or areas, which may lead to a much more complex fire, an interface fire affecting the woodland urban interface. So it's important to sort of plow the fields, to plow a strip of land that ranges from 7 to 10 meters of the field, which creates a sort of buffer zone to stop the spread of the fire. So let's talk about prevention. How can technology help us with prevention? We have already emphasized prevention, and prevention can be achieved using the planning tools available and the educational and awareness raising activities we can carry out with the citizens. And it can also be achieved with specific training and with alert systems. We've got some maps to predict wildfires at the Civil Protection Department. These are sub-municipal maps which can alert us about a wildfire by identifying the areas that are most exposed to the risk of wildfires, that are most vulnerable to wildfires. Regarding prediction activities, well, prediction is just as important as prevention. What kind of prediction activities can be performed? Well, let me go back to prevention activities. As I said, we've got some systems to sort of site wildfires. This can be done with ground vehicles or ground units, including the Carabinieri Forest Corps and others. We patrol the areas also using drones and ultra light planes and also traditional planes. And this kind of patrolling adds up to the other prevention activities. So we perform this kind of patrolling in the areas that have been identified as being most vulnerable and exposed to the possibility of a wildfire breaking out. Let me just say something else, which is just as important. It's about the use of technology. For some time now, we've been using technology at our availability as an advanced tool involved in our decision-making process. Knowing your fire map is equally important, but we have promoted a project funded with European funds, 13 million euros in funds, which revolves around three main pillars. So you've got the strengthening of the interoperability of the information systems used in the operational room. That's pillar number one, the strengthening of these information tools. The second pillar is the creation and implementation of the regional digital radio network. This network enables us to communicate quickly using a safe digital network, safe and secure digital network. This network enables us to communicate in real time with all the players involved in the firefighting activities. We've got a multi-risk network, which we're strengthening by deploying long-range precision cameras, which can identify the spark of even very small wildfires in woodlands. They transmit the data to the regional operational room, which works 12 hours a day by officials of the civil protection and personnel from the Carabinieri Forest Corps and some personnel from the fire brigade, as well as volunteers who also support the suppression activities on the field. And then the colleagues from the national department are also involved in the activities remotely, especially when planes have to be deployed. As we said, the active suppression of the wildfire isn't only done using ground vehicles, but also aerial vehicles. So last year, we purchased a regional helicopter. Hopefully this year we'll be able to use 2 helicopters so that we can intervene on wildfires, which can be suppressed very quickly only by using helicopters. As the regional director of the Firefighters said, the reaction time is of the essence. If these 2 helicopters are not sufficient, or if they're not suitable because of the type of wildfire, then we contact the National Operational Room, which provides us with their own planes from the national fleet to support us in the suppression activities. Well, I guess I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. And let me thank Mr. Ciani as well. Unfortunately, he will have to leave now. But I'll be replaced by a colleague. Mr. Capoluongo will stay on. He's followed the debate up until now. And so he'll be replacing Mr. Vincenzo Ciani, Regional Director of the Firefighters Department. And now, let's give the floor to our foreign guest. And he would have to take the floor first normally, but I apologize if we're giving him the floor last. So let's hear from Andreas Vassilopoulos. He already took the floor earlier on when he introduced his company. But we were happy to invite him to join us in this roundtable because he has experience as a manager, but also with the operations. So not only in management, but also with the actual operations. So you've got the floor, Mr. Andreas.
Thank you all, and thank you, Piaggio, for this fruitful panel. Forest fires are one of the biggest problems that we face every year, and this makes them even more, let's say, strange to us, because every year we face the same problem and we fail to solve it. And we have, as the previous speaker said, we have to understand why fires occur, who brings up the fire. And one of the major, the last 30 years, one of the major causes of fires are people that believe that by burning an area, they can easily urbanize the next years this area. And this is why intentional fires are very high, at least in Greece, I believe in other countries as well. And going to institutional changes, as Piaggio requested to say, one big institutional change is that now we finish in the whole country the maps that clarify what is urban and what is forest or agricultural land, which means that after finalizing these maps, national maps, even if a fire burns a forest, the forest will be regenerated as a forest and not be able to, let's say, deforest the area and urbanize it. So this stops the motivation of firing. And another thing is that we have to understand, and it was very clear to the fire, the huge fire of 2018, where I attended not as an administrative person, but also in the fire, helping the firemen and the people that are neighbors that were facing the problems of the fire 2 days. Who is responsible to act during the fire? The municipality, the prefecture, the ministry, the fire department, the police department. And I have to tell you that even when we knew that the fire was in the urban area, the authorities were debating who has to give the evacuation signal. And you understand that a fire that runs with 1.5 kilometers per hour is very, let's say, very, very rapid, and you don't have the time to take such decisions at this time of the fire. So one big institutional change is that we restructured after the fire of 2018 the legislation and we prioritized prevention. I will come to this later, and also upgraded the role of ministry, and we created a Ministry of Climate Crisis and Civil Protection, who has the overall um, coordination role wherever we have not only fires but also floods and other disasters. And this was also supplemented by a new law in 2023, where we upgraded also the role of municipalities, the fire departments of municipalities, and also the volunteering teams, the volunteering teams that support the municipalities. We upgraded their role so that they are the first to go and act in a local fire. Whereas previous times, the fire department was the first to go and the municipal infrastructure was there to assist. This is a big change because it is impossible for the fire department to be prompt to the whole country, where the municipalities know their area, have their equipment, because now we upgraded also their equipment, and they have an intervention of under 8 to 9 minutes in whole Greece. So they are the first to go there with engines, fire engines, and people, trained people, and they're the first to report to the fire department or the civil protection ministry, because one of the problems that we face, and you know the problem, is that the first to go maybe doesn't give the clear picture of what is happening there. And this was structured so we know what to say, when to say it, and to whom to say it, so that the fire department will organize a good response based on the incident. This is also very important because we might have, most times we have multiple incidents in one region on in our country. So the fire department or the ministry now has to organize support to 2 or 3 areas at the same time, and wants to know how to expand their forces. Again, in 2003, there was a new legislation that a joint ministry decision that passed the responsibility of preparing the houses to the civilians, to the owners of the house. It was the first time that a law says that if you have a property and a house in it, you have to go to certain steps to make an assessment. Not you, but a scientist should attend your house, check your house, and make an assessment form of your house, and then take several measures, preventing measures, which means cleaning surrounding of your house, opening some paths, so more than one path to evacuate your house, and also measures to mitigate the fire results, which means replacing your doors and windows with fireproof materials, painting your house with fireproof materials, removing some flammable the woods from the fireplace that are left during summer away from your house and covered, and things like that. So the responsibility passes to its owner. This is a big change that, of course, cannot be adapted to the whole country, because it also assumes a high cost for its owner, who is not ready to pay for it, and it's not possible to pay for it. But it's a good step forward, so that each one of us prepare our houses more resilient to fire. There is also a big change where, if we speak about, do you want to go to technological, or we speak later, Piaggio?
Sorry.
Do you want to speak now about technological improvements, or you want to be the second round?
Well, let's go for the second round to give the time to the.
Okay, so continuing to legislation, there is also in 2023-2024 the establishment of a risk assessment committee. It is the first time that that Greece, the ministry, understood that it needs scientists to be integrated in one of those committees, and not only firemen, policemen, and civil protection people. So they integrated people from the Meteorological Society. They integrated people from universities and also from research institutes, so that we can divide in our area in regions of importance of difficulty, and also to be able to give information about what is burned, what is the speed that it is burned, and to give models. This is one of the roles of our project also, to give models how the fire is spread, and one step further, how to run scenarios before we implement fire prevention measures on their efficiency, which means that before we spend the money taking a measure, we have to evaluate what is the efficiency of this measure in order to be able to understand how we spend our budget better and more efficiently. The fires that happened the last years, 2018, 2021, 22, 24, I am referring only to Attica region, not the whole Greece, were fires that started from mountains, mainly Pedeli mountain, but very in short time ran through urban areas and made huge disasters, not only in loss of human people, but also in loss of infrastructure, and also gave us a good idea that it is very expensive to compensate after the fire than give that money to prevent fire. And that's why we shifted towards prevention. And one thing that is not related to fire directly, but it is related to fire, is that when we are cleaning our areas, municipal, governmental areas, or our houses from the vegetation that might be burned material, this produces a huge mass of vegetation that the country has to deal with. And now we're facing the problem that we don't know what to do with this material that is concentrated. There are some improvements, technological improvements to produce energy, to produce pellets and compost and other things. But if you consider that this mass is concentrated during March, April, May, which is the 3 months that we have to prepare our areas, this is a huge amount of mass, wood mass that we have to deal with, and we are not prepared. I believe you are not prepared also what to do with this mass and how to transfer this mass to infrastructures that will process it. So this is what we are running now as a project, how to help municipalities collect this, and also send this to units that will convert it to compost or electricity or pellets. So these are the last 6-7 years changes that took place, mainly, I repeat, starting from the huge fire of 2018 in Mati that you all know. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Andreas. I think I will, instead of choosing by myself, is there, who of you wants to intervene first? I heard I am speaking as representative of the general public. I heard two interesting points. The issue of the, if I understood correctly, Andreas, you will correct me, the a regulation, a law that imposed to the civil persons, to the families, to make some structural intervention in their houses in order to improve fire resistance to them. So I might ask if in Italy there is something similar, obviously with the natural differences. Second, I would like to ask about the last question, about what to do of the materials that are that represent a huge risk for future fires, and what is the approach in our region, in our country? So please, who wants to be the first?
Yes, I will take the floor. We are active in the active fight. We are also present at institutional level. We are the entity that takes care of the prevention in buildings, prevention of fire. So when it comes to buildings, I can say that the decision-making, law-making entity is the fire brigade in Italy. So this is the prerogative, because usually in other countries this competence is separated. The experience of being on the ground to suppress fires can be also used to analyze and to help creating preventive laws in the field of prevention. When it comes to buildings, we propose laws that can be implemented, but none of them can be monitored directly by us. Unfortunately, we have some timings to respect. I'm totally incompetent in the field, but I know how important is your competence in the field of fire prevention in buildings. But well, I heard about measures to be adopted around the buildings. So, for example, the creation of pathways, escaping pathways, the way to manage internal spaces. What's your experience in this matter? As far as I understood, the problems we had to face in Greece, people had to face in Greece, is an interface relating problem. That's what we called in Italy. This has an impact on the urban area. This is the feature of what we call interface. We, as fire brigade, we are active in the fight of wildfires. We mainly intervene on the interfaces. This does not mean that we cannot act in the other cases, but in support of the regional governments. The coordination of fire suppression is managed by the region, and then the other activities are being managed by the fire brigade. When it comes to the urban areas, somehow it does not, it's not part of our competencies, unless that activity is part of the activities being controlled by the fire brigade. We only have a list of 80 activities, and there are special laws regulating of fire suppression prevention. So that's why I spoke about fire prevention. Otherwise, this matter has to be dealt with at the local level between the municipalities and the regional government. I partially understood what has been said in English, but as far as I understood, first of all, I would like to clarify a situation. Namely, every situation, every local situation is different from the other. So probably that's the reason why the urban texture in that place is something that can actually facilitate the municipality of Potenza to act. I don't know if this is possible in other municipalities, in other areas. What you did actually is an active citizenship project. So you somehow imposed the duty to clean up their own area. So this is, if you want, the result of cleaning operations, and this is has been introduced into a circular economy system where microphone. So in practice, it's a practice that is can be scaled, can be reproposed in many small municipalities of Basilicata. But please bear in mind that our approach is centered around a legislation that is positive for mayors, whereby we have some prohibitions and sanctions to keep our funds cleaned, because where we act, where we identify the wildfires, actually we can involve the municipalities that carry out cleaning activities. So the burning of grass is an example of that. And the prohibition to keep clean your own field is an example. And the prohibition to not to use the prohibition actually, so you have the duty to keep your fields cleaned is another example. So under this profile, it's necessary to apply sanctions to those who do not carry out such activities. So our activity stops here. The activity that the municipalities want to invest on with their populations. But there is probably some other aspects that I need to understand, because Mrs. Martino, probably you would like to take the floor. Yes. When I was speaking about the mayors, I spoke about the invitation I extend to every mayor to issue a law about the field cleaning and all the measures that can help this. The problem we are having is that, as I said before, many mountains are abandoned. So there is there are some combustion materials that are left there, and so there's no solution for that, you know. So here there is a duty to clean the area, and the cleaning is being made by the dedicated organization. The president of the Basilicata region, the president of the regional government proposes, issues its own regulation, which is valid on the territory of Basilicata. This applies not only to entities, but also to the citizens, to all those who have a farm, to all those managers of infrastructure measures, and they can operate. They have to operate. They have to clean up their areas for which they are competent, to guarantee a better usage, to reduce the negative effects of wildfires. This is what we do. So next to that, there are a series of laws that every major implements in their own municipality. Andreas wanted to say something.
One thing is cleaning the surrounding areas. Another thing that I think that is very valuable to every administration is scoring each house, how prompt is in fires. Because and that's why I say that, because we know that many times the fire department would have done much better results if it wasn't obliged to leave the area that was burning and go to extinguish a fire to a house that is being burned. Which means that if we make our houses more resilient to fire, we leave the fire department to deal with just the fire, the burning material, and not the houses that are in danger or the people that are in danger. So scoring, each one of us, each owner, knowing the score of how resilient is his property to a fire is valuable, even for us as citizens, and also for the administration. And the scoring is important also because we have houses that are constructed in different years, very old and very new ones. The new ones are not so easily burned. Houses that are in the forest, houses that have trees, high trees approaching the house, and the houses that are in the middle of nowhere, which means that there is no way out if a fire occurs. So scoring the house is very important to my concept, and I think it's a valuable tool for any administration.
Ok, il dottore diceva.
The problem that you presented has to do with the urban area. We oblige or we invite every citizens to adopt a kind of classification of every house regarding the fire risk. So making your house resilient to a wildfire, if each one of you takes care of their own house, dilutes sometimes reduces the engagement in the field of firefighting, because all the houses are safe from fire. In our context, we are not really faced with this situation. For example, in areas next to the sea, the coasts where there are several agglomerations inside pine forest, for example, there it might be the case. Let's think about the village of Castellaneta. You can find many houses that are literally inside the middle of nowhere, like in the pine wood of the Aleppo pine. And so the activity is quite smart, and it's quite smart to reduce the risk. And in this activity, we can involve all people who have a house in this area. I would like to add to this translation the very delicate element and sensitive element of hospitals. We have the scoring in the field of emergencies in the hospitals. We are used to hear the wording red code. So red code means that a patient needs a special assistance, which is higher in degree compared to yellow code. In Greece, they created a similar system, a scoring, which is a classification giving a score to more sensible houses, to more risky houses compared to other houses that are less at risk. If there is no alternative, well, these houses can be helped later. So it's a different problem, but unfortunately, this year we have to remember that the memory of two fire brigade officials who died, because in Italy wildfires usually do not cause victims, such as in Greece, the big fire in Greece, but these are extreme events and they can cause problems too. You helped me to open the debate that we planned, and those of you who want to ask questions from the audience are free to do that, please. If you can say your name for the interpreters. I'm Guido Lopez from the Civil Protection Office. I would like to give a contribution to the debate, to the last intervention of the Greek representative. I would like to understand what they do, and I would like to draw a parallel with some activities that are being carried out here in Italy. I think that the subject you presented is important, the classification of the risk areas, but also the need to create a policy that can take into consideration the materials used. You spoke about the replacement of windows, the material of the house. So in Italy, there is no comparison, but there is, of course, a similar situation. And we can make a comparison if you want to assess the risk factor for every house. The regional director spoke about the Peschici fire of 2017. In Italy, this fire originated the creation of the law about the fire prevention. So it dictated some ways of assessing point by point the fire risk in housing. In the municipal planning, we impose the perimeter measurement of the element risk element, the urban areas, the infrastructures, and we make an assessment of the risk taking into consideration a series of factors. So the presence of vegetation, the kind of vegetation, the pyrometry, so the wind that is spreads into a direction rather than in the other. So the planning activity helps us to make a sort of classification of the level of intervention. Every municipality should, on the basis of that planning, if it's well planned, know what are the areas that are impacted by the interface to be able to enhance the patrolling activity and to intensify the observation of such phenomenon. Thank you so much for the intervention. Mr. Loperter, Mr. Martino would like to intervene. On the interfaces area that are being identified at municipal level, did you think about intervention concerning the buffers? And in the reality, are these, can this be explained? Can this be realized? The problem is really important. After the intervention of Mr. Roberti, I would like really to invite
the experience of the other countries that are in RES2Fire can be very useful.
I was saying that the planning helps to define buffers in a later stage, but this is important for the intervention model. We draw a classification, and a first series could be the urban area with an area of 50 meters, another area of 200 meters, and this is important to be able to evaluate measures to be adopted according to the flame expansion, because all this is linked to the need of adopting measures to safeguard the community, public and private community. So when suppressing a fire, it's important to take some precautionary measures. So for example, the evacuation order that needs to be implemented when the flames reach the internal buffer, so to say. So in relation to this, I come back to the contents of your project. It is paramount to have a simulator in place, helping us to assess the situations in progress situations. So to be able to know in real time how much time do we have before the flames reach the perimetral zone of the urban area. That could be a fundamental tool for an operation room. But obviously, it's something that could have an added value for the prevention activity as well, meaning measuring the effectiveness of an intervention in a preventive way and to be able to evaluate the effectiveness will help us to plan some activities. And so the added value could be double.
Oh, okay, we have Professor Nollet.
I would like to thank you for the reports of all the institutions, because there are some fundamental points that came out. The number of fires, the system works. If we can have a number of fires that is manageable, obviously is doable. If not, it's not. The efforts made in the prevention, in the monitoring of the territory, well, it's important. We cannot put a Carabinieri or a policeman in every meter of our territory. The other problem we have is the intensity of wildfire, the possibility of operating. If we have a flame that is 1.5 meters high, it's difficult to be close to it, to extinguish it directly. So we are really beyond our possibility of attacking the flame directly and to extinguish the fire. So we have to use other means, our aerial means and so on. This brings us back to an important point, which is the fuel. And here the forest police comes into place. The fuel and the wood. In forest, the wood has a certain value. So the management of wood, the ordinary management of wood, the fact of considering woods as a strategic tool at political level is paramount in our region. Then the preventative silviculture, wherever we have extreme conditions, wherever the ordinary silviculture does not give any profit, the preventive silviculture can be important. The biomass that has no value and the circular economy, it's important how to use the biomasses, how to implement projects concerning compost. But as the forest police says, the wildfire can be extinguished, can be suppressed thanks to the silviculture projects.
You made my life very easy today as a moderator of this meeting. I'm speaking in English for the guests, for kindness to our guests, and I I dare to say for the CGIM that we will organize in the future, in this next 2 years and 1.5, other moments of discussion, of cooperation, of exchange of experience in this important field for our welfare and for the future. Thank you very much to everybody, and see you soon, really. Arrivederci.